So there is, well, before we get into where we're at with the AI journey, just briefly, 2020 Technology is a consulting systems integrator here in the Mid-Atlantic and sort of eastern half of the United States region here. As you can see, we've got some very fundamental core competencies that we've had in place for a great many years, and these capabilities and the success that we've had in these areas speak to the kind of fundamental business knowledge that you need of a company's technical stack and operation in order to help them derive value from advanced capabilities like AI. So the fact that we've been doing cloud migrations, understanding and scaling networks properly, helping our customers understand collaboration options, and ultimately dealing towards business outcomes. And business outcomes for our customers are about their customer satisfaction, cost optimization, et cetera. So when we stepped back, going back a year and a half, and said, okay, we've got AI embedded in all these solutions that we're taking to market. We see the value, particularly in the security stack of some of this, plus AI capabilities. What are we going to do as an organization? And how can we ensure that we're maximizing our ability to help our customers? So by understanding what business drivers there are in technology and looking at the market, we took a long journey and made a very specific decision to partner up with IBM. I think a lot of those reasons will be evident as we go through the overview and get into governance, but this really is about trust, transparency, the backing of an established partner in AI, and the ability to develop a degree of consistency and then still be able to govern the results, the business outcomes of those AI initiatives. So we feel strongly that IBM is uniquely positioned in terms of the capabilities. That's what informed our journey to establish this partnership and to start sharing with you all what we've done with our customers thus far and how we're going to market together. So that's 2020 and IBM, and here we are in the end of January in 2025. And what we're seeing is a reality here. Okay, I think that there is an argument to be made that we are very much at one of the major inflection points in sort of the technology and humanity lineage here. I am of the opinion that there has not been such a technology event since the internet became ubiquitous here, and the question becomes, what is AI? What are we doing with it? And how does our approach to AI speak to our competitive advantages and the realities of the new world? This is just an example of things that can be done through a simple text search now. And this, really speaks to the fact that adoption is dramatically increasing over these last 7 years. Our clients really speak to their interest in AI by investing time and investing dollars. And you can see that there has been a noteworthy shift here as organizations work to establish their strategy and decide what strategic investments are most important to them. I think another inflection point here is what we've seen over the last 5 years is a world where companies are running about their businesses and adding AI where it makes sense. We see a transition here where the thought shift is towards not plus AI, but AI first, and then adding from there. This is really a decision about how an organization wants to operate with AI and the extent to which they want to be at the lead of this process of harnessing, standardizing, and ultimately governing AI. So when we think about that, we have to think about the building blocks. And of course, the building blocks here are a bit of a timeline as well. And we all know the kind of interest that was inspired by ChatGPT. It introduced folks to the concept of large language models and had some extremely fascinating consumer implications and use cases and some business use cases as well. But there's a bigger concept, the concept of A foundation model is a Stanford University term, and IBM has been working on foundation models for the last 7 years. And really, part of that secret sauce is not only the data involved in a foundation model, but also the transformer, so that we are able to marry together both established foundation large language model data along with unstructured or custom data and leverage the transformers in order to create generative AI. Input, creating new output is generative AI, and that generative content is what can have an impact on business processes, product development, cybersecurity. The list goes on and on. The generative AI is what will change business, and it begs the question, what do those foundation models consist of? What are the risks associated with those foundation models? And how do my partnerships in AI inform risk factors in using those foundation models? When we think about foundation models, we think about the data that exists in every business all around the world. That can be traditional structured or unstructured data in text form, but it can be sensor data. It could be images, speech, different things that are involved in a business. And when we look at the robust amount of data in these different areas, from business and speech and dialogue to IT, that's what really drives the development of these foundation models. And one of the things that I want to note here, and one of the elements that separated IBM as 2020 was researching and looking to determine how most effectively to partner in this space, is the idea of indemnification. When we think about leveraging large language models, some of our risks are around hate and abusive language. They could be around drift within models, unreliable output. By harnessing the foundation model itself and by working with a partner who indemnifies and works from a legal and regulatory or compliance risk, again, we're establishing a set of standards for AI, we're mitigating the risk, and we're doing so with a trusted partner. So these building blocks ultimately unleash the power of scalability and acceleration in a number of different areas. These are just some example of some of the foundation models for business. There are a great many out there, but when I start my AI journey with an established foundational model and an established toolkit, and then on governance, I'm able to do it in a more predictable, more repeatable, and more consistent manner where I can ensure that I'm considering risk along the way. So how do clients and partners, work with these different foundation models? Flexibility is the key here. Ultimately, the AI process is, what business outcomes can I generate? What processes can I automate to increase efficiencies? And that is a repeatable process of try, tune, build and evaluate, and then ultimately deploy. The flexibility that we saw on this platform is around leveraging indemnified IBM large language and foundational models, but being able to marry that with open source models, other open data, build your own models, and still do it within the constructs of an enterprise-ready platform. All of this is predicated on the idea of a flexible hybrid cloud, and it speaks to the journey that our customers have been on. And that journey starts with data. Where is it? How do I collect it? Where does it reside? And how do I make sure that it's something that can be ingested as part of a collective AI effort? Adding AI to your applications, automating workflows, replacing your workflows. These are the building blocks and the steps. This is a great whiteboard activity for our customers to understand, A, what have we accomplished so far? B, what are we trying to accomplish? And C, what are the tools? What vendors, whose capabilities are being used? Are there risks associated with that? And is there value in getting our arms around this process in a more stringent way? So we've got AI on a fairly broad level there. Why Watson X? Why did 2020 choose to go to market here? And ultimately, you can see the watchwords there. It's critical, trusted data wherever it resides, but it's the scale and the acceleration and the trust that really jumped out with us in terms of helping our customers move forward. So The components or building blocks that we'll go into, and I'll turn it over to Damon here shortly to speak to us about the last one on the right there, the governance side. But the three primary components of this enterprise platform are Watson AI, and there's your studio. That's where the rubber hits the road with taking data, taking foundational models, establishing what objectives we're trying to accomplish, and tuning and testing and deploying. watsonx data is the scalability that we need to ensure the data that's pertinent to these exercises is accessible, can be brought into these workloads, and done so in a way that is trackable, manageable, and again, allows for that acceleration and scale. And then lastly, governance, which we'll get into in more detail here just momentarily. The idea is responsible, transparent, and explainable. These are some of the fundamental pillars of AI trust, and they have been the driving principles behind this enterprise platform, this platform approach. So again, we talked a bit about the hybrid cloud. That is absolutely a fundamental underpinning to this offering. And then we think about what other capabilities structured within a platform that need to exist in order to have a comprehensive solution. And when we look at IBM and we look at not only the consultative capabilities that they bring to bear that marries so well together with 2020 and our knowledge of our customers' business, but you need the SDKs and the application interfaces, the APIs. You need the data platform. You need the actual studio. The work that's done to build this is the framework that we see customers can be most successful in. And of course, adoption is underway, whether it's the leading independent software vendor in the world, leveraging Watson Assistants like SAP, whether it's our partnership and utilization at Adobe to expand some of our text and language into images, etc. Red Hat is an underpinning there. And then in terms of just more traditional customers, whether you're answering 300,000 questions a month and learning from them, whether you're saving hundreds of hours a year in IT automation, AI will be a fundamental part of our business lives and technology lives everywhere in 5 years. I believe it will be ubiquitous. It'll be another tool in the kit. The question is, how will organizations harness this now in a structured, repeatable, and with a trusted partner so that they can be out of the gate quicker, take advantage of those competitive differentiators, and make sure that they're moving from plus AI to AI plus. So open, trusted, targeted, and empowering. And we're going to get back to some of the options that we have for you all in terms of follow-ups and next steps from pilots and trials and workshops and briefings here. But I'm going to conclude my AI overview there and discussion of IBM in 2020 on a broad level. And I'm going to look forward to turning it over to my colleague Damon here, who's going to drill a little bit further into that governance and risk side.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Give me 1 second here. And I hope you're seeing my screen. Tim, are you guys seeing it?
Absolutely, Damon's screen looks great.
All right, perfect. Okay, so like Tim said, we're going to give you a sort of a high-level overview of watsonx.governance just to get you familiar with the opportunities that it provides. And but we're also going to kick it off by mentioning that other product, and that's ChatGPT. But only because it's been in the news so much, and we can't deny it's a household name now. A lot of us have it on our phones. Um, it's really shown the power of AI to the masses, right? So to speak, right? But at the same time, it's drawn a lot of public scrutiny to AI in general. Um, I don't know if any of you might remember, but some of the outputs that it gave people, early on, like if you asked it when did Da Vinci paint the Mona Lisa, it would say in 1815. And I mean, that was off by about 365 years or so. One of my favorites, and to be fair, these have been fixed, since those early days, but But it said to keep the cheese from sliding off of a slice of pizza, just add glue to your recipe. So, that, makes us laugh a little bit. And like I said, those have been fixed later. But, it might make some folks think that AI is not really ready for enterprise business use. It's fine just to have on your phone, just to as a almost like to play with so every so often. But we're just here to let you know that's not the case at all. IBM has been doing AI for decades already. They have a well-established, long-time track record of helping clients gain real, genuine business value from their AI and data science projects. But to ensure that your AI works in a responsible, transparent, and explainable way, making it something that people can trust, right? Companies have to implement a governance strategy. And so enter watsonx.governance, the third component of IBM's industry-leading cutting-edge AI and data solution. That Tim just showed you the other two components, watsonx.ai and watsonx.data. So watsonx.governance is platform agnostic, it's hybrid cloud capable, and it's fully customizable to meet your needs. But why is it so, critical then, as we say, to adopt an AI governance strategy? Well, look at Tim touched on some of this as well. Look at the rate of adoption of AI, right? 80% of enterprises are already working with, or they're planning to work with foundation models and adopt generative AI in some way, right? It's even projected to raise global GDP by 7% within the next 10 years. And as more research, leads to more capabilities, that sounds pretty feasible, doesn't it? And then the third column there, you see it already represents, or it represents 30% of what's already a huge overall market by this year. So it's fair to say, and we all kind of know that AI is happening already on a grand scale. So no company or organization can really afford to miss out on this opportunity. But when we think about it, growth at this speed, this kind of growth at this speed is not without concerns, is it? And so, what are some of the concerns with scaling AI across an enterprise at the enterprise level? Well, look at these numbers. 80% of these business leaders that were surveyed see at least one of these ethical issues as a major concern. And then look at the numbers. It's almost half on all of them. So nearly half of these business leaders believe that the decisions made by generative AI are not explainable enough. Where is this output coming from? How's it reaching this decision? If we were just talking about Chat GPT, the industry views that as a black box because you give it an input, it gives you an output, but you have no idea how it arrived at that output because it's completely opaque, right? Look at the next column there. Nearly half of the business leaders are very concerned about the safety and ethical aspects of AI. Is it spouting hate speech of some kind, or is it going to advise something that's illegal, or is it maybe accessing personal private information, or is it maybe delivering up copyrighted content? All of those would be negative outcomes, right? Look at the third one there. Nearly half believe that AI will propagate bias. And so, what we mean in this case when we're talking about bias, we're talking about like gender bias or racial bias. And really, the short answer to that is yeah. If there's any bias at all has crept into the training data, you can expect some degree of bias is going to show up in the results. And given the size of the training data for a lot of these models, it can be very difficult to screen for this. And so, in the light of those first three concerns, nearly half of these business leaders don't believe that AI can be trusted. And so in the minds of, executive leadership, let's say the HR department, the legal department, et cetera, these concerns represent risk. That's what we see on the left side of this slide are these various concerns, right? And IBM has kind of sort of summarized them into these three very specific kinds of risk. And that's regulatory, reputational, and operational. So the first one, regulatory. There's no enterprise that wants to be in violation of the law or out of compliance with some kind of regulations, right? The second one there, reputational. No enterprise can afford to take a hit to their reputation or their brand, right? Branding is everything nowadays, isn't it? And then the third one, if you think about it, no enterprise in this economic climate we're in can afford operational risks either. And so let me just give you a quick example what we mean by that. Let's say a bank is using AI to, approve or deny loans, which is pretty straightforward because you're comparing data. It's meets certain thresholds, yes or no, sort of thing. But let's say the bias has some, or excuse me, the model has some bias in it, has crept in, right? Or maybe, maybe the models started to experience some drift. And what that means is that's when the performance of the model degrades over time, like you after using it for a long time, right? Or let's say it starts releasing, some personal data, maybe a social security number or something gets out, right? So if you think about it, it may be approving loans now that it shouldn't, right? So that's a risk. Or it might be denying loans that it should be approving. So now you're missing out on business, right? So both of those outcomes are negative, right? And so that's why we say, when we said earlier, it's imperative that companies implement an AI governance strategy. But it's a new terminology, right? What does that really mean? So IBM has kind of defined it this way. AI governance is the process of directing, monitoring, and managing holistically all of the AI activities of an organization. And so let's think about what does that really mean? What do we need to do, right? So we need to be able to monitor and evaluate the models for fairness, accuracy, drift. You see here in the first column HAP, that means hate, abuse, and profanity. You see also there PII, right? That's personally identifiable information. And they need to be explainable. We don't want our AI to be a black box. We want it to be what we're calling a glass box, fully transparent, so you can see exactly how it arrived at a given output. Then you have to be able to track all of these metrics in a way that's automated, right? So you can associate them with the model and where it is in its life cycle, whether it's still being developed or it's in pre-production, or maybe it's already been deployed. See, if you can do that, now you have some auditability, right? And you're starting to have governance now. You're starting to govern if you can do all those things. Because maybe you're trying to evaluate two models against one another. Because ultimately we need to track risk, don't we? What's the risk to the enterprise from using this model or this one, right? So if we think about that, how are enterprises doing this now? Because there's not a lot of standardized tools and platforms in place for doing this. So the reality is that a lot of most companies are using sort of let's just call it a hodgepodge kind of hit and miss, method of, well, this code is on this developer's machine. We know that, and we know this is running on that server over there. Um, or maybe is it on that running on that one in Houston? You see where we're going with this? And then it's going to be a lot of manual processes. So imagine it's your data science team. They're running tests, they're generating reports, and they're building spreadsheets, right? And then what? Then they're sending those spreadsheets off to upper management for approval. Then they're probably waiting for an email reply, before they can proceed with either, further development or maybe deployment or maybe putting a halt to both for that model, right? So you can see how all of that is going to significantly slow down the time to value for your AI, right? Not to mention, you've just introduced the possibility of a lot of points of human error into that whole process. And then all the while, the company is exposed to risk. So if you look back at the slide, that third column, you have to be able to manage that risk. You need to be able to create approval workflows, right? And they're going to be different for each enterprise. Each company is going to do things differently. Maybe there's risk officers or HR people that need to sign off on the use of certain models. And then the level of risk needs to be trackable. So now imagine now you can quantify all of that, tie those risk measurements to certain model metrics, right? And then collect all of that into a centralized dashboard, right? Giving you an enterprise-wide view of all of your model's performance. If you can do that, now you're managing your AI, and now you have governance. So here's just a couple screenshots just to give you kind of an idea of what it looks like. The quality metrics you're going to want to use are dependent on the use case of the model and whether it's predictive or generative. And there's a variety of quality metrics like accuracy, precision, recall, and it also allows for the definition of custom metrics as well. And then you can set up alerts, right? If the model falls below a certain threshold that you establish, right? And it can also be set to detect unfair bias and drift in predictive models. Now, this slide shows kind of how it manages risk. You can see sort of the graphical representations here. By being able to quantify the risks that a model might pose to an organization by assigning a value to those risks. Because, for instance, let's say there's government regulations or fines, right, for a model making biased decisions or something. And so if the unfair bias rating, drops below, let's say 75%, you could assign a monetary value to that, right? And then, of course, you're going to monitor that model closely, right, to see how close you're getting to that threshold. Now, it's likely some of you've probably heard of these other IBM products, IBM OpenScale, that has been around for many years. IBM's been using it many years. It does AI monitoring for drift and bias. IBM Open Pages, that is IBM's GRC solution, which is governmental regulatory and compliance. And then this one is not so much a product, but it's kind of more of a feature, but it's called AI fact sheets. And what those do is they collect all of the metadata and the facts about a model, right, and keeps it with that model. So you can if you select a model you want to use, you can see sort of the whole history of it there, right? Well, all three of these products are now built into watsonx.governance. But like we mentioned previously, this is a platform agnostic solution. So no matter what platform your models are running on or were built on, maybe they're running on a local server somewhere or they're, in the cloud on Azure, for example. Maybe you're not even an IBM customer yet. You don't have any IBM software. Um, Regardless, watsonx.governance can monitor all of those other models, giving you that enterprise-wide view of all of your AI deployments. So this is just a couple of use cases, just real quick. Some of these, not all these companies, want their names on here, but for instance, the first one was a large bank used watsonx governance for regulatory compliance. The second one there, a large retailer used it to detect potential bias in their hiring processes. And the third one there, I kind of want to draw your attention to that. Because of the size of it. This was the U.S. Open, U.S. Tennis Association, I think, U.S. Open runs the U.S. Open. 15 million fans follow the U.S. Open on their app, right? And they used Watson X to develop generative AI models to take data from the matches and publish original content. And it's in the form of these really slick little highlight reels, highlight packages, because there's 254 singles matches in the U.S. Open. Now that process of making those highlight reels used to take a few hours, right? But now they can be seen within a minute after that match has ended. And they use governance as well for transparency and for bias monitoring. Then just a real quick look at pricing. This is very flexible because, not everyone's going to need all of these modules necessarily. You'll notice that it's available in both perpetual as well as subscription. Of course, this is on-prem. There's also the SaaS options as well. And I don't know if you may have heard, but Amazon has also partnered with IBM and made watsonx.governance the governance product for their AWS SageMaker, which is their AI development platform. So this again just gives you a sort of a quick idea of the way they IBM loves what they call t-shirt sizing, small, medium, and large. So but just to give you an idea, like the small, for instance, support for up to 5 models, medium support for up to 20 models, a large support for up to 100 models. And it's not uncommon for larger enterprises to be using, 40 to 60 different LLMs. So this is not, this is pretty realistic. So. And then some of the ways we can get started, a demo, a briefing, moving on then to a pilot program. IBM can assist in building a proof of concept or what have you. And we just want to leave you with sort of the assurance that, this isn't just our opinion. IBM is the true leader in the AI governance space. This is a Magic Quadrant from IDC. Illustrates it very well. You'll see that IBM is the large pink circle there in the far upper right corner. And just want to share this one quote with you. I really like this one because it kind of illustrates well the feeling of a lot of clients. But this one client said after seeing a demo, she said with what you could hear was fear in her voice. She says, "Our whole organization is rushing into generative AI, but we don't even have this in place yet for our existing models." You see, but we don't want this to be you. So let us know when you want to start governing your AI in a way that's responsible, transparent, and explainable so that you can continue to build trust in your brand and boost productivity, and all the while minimizing the cost of compliance and reducing risk. Thank you.
Damon, thank you very much for that. Well done and much appreciated. We've got a few questions here that have popped up in the QA as we round out here. So allow me to get to those. The first question from one of our attendees is, who's the best person to reach out to if we want to take advantage of some of the offers that have been made here? And as you may recall, that includes a briefing, which is 2 to 4 hours, virtual or on site. I think one of the things that I want to just reiterate is that in researching our partnership in this space, we consider not only the technology, the history, the capabilities, et cetera, but how effectively we all partner together. So in addition to the resources here at 2020, we've got close alignment with IBM and having a conversation about what makes sense in terms of a briefing topic, what we want to accomplish, virtual or on site. There's a lot of flexibility there and a lot of expertise that we bring to bear as a collective. So whether that or an actual pilot program, which can be 1 to 4 weeks, where we're establishing models and actually doing some testing, and then there are trials available to minimize the costs associated with trying some of this stuff. But I will be the best person to reach out to. All of you are here because you have an invite from me or saw LinkedIn. You're also going to receive follow-up email that will include my email address and my phone number. It will be my pleasure to coordinate with our 2020 staff and our partners at IBM to make sure that we've got the right team in place to make a good use of your time on any next steps here. Oh, another question here. Are there use cases that you can share with us? Bear with me just a second here. And let's see. Sorry for the delay there. Can everyone see that screen there? Okay, so these are some of the capabilities that we offer in terms of follow-up items. This is a use case slide. I also just happened to see a question, will these slides be made available? Yes, we will make these slides available and we'll include these links. The generic one or the top level one is really a compelling, business-oriented, digestible way to think about what my organization wants to accomplish and to explore those capabilities in terms of practical use cases. You can see AI ethics and search in the US Open that Damon was talking about, which is a fascinating study to be sure, given the amount of people, fans, customers, and the amount of data involved. But these use cases are where the rubber hits the road in terms of what I have seen our customers take. Understanding AI capabilities, understanding their business, and looking for those successes, the output, the generative output that can come into play in the most clearly defined use cases. One of the best ways to explore it right there, to be sure. So again, in response to the other question, we will send out the slide deck and make these links available. I'm happy to be your point of contact. We did have another question here, which I think is an appropriate one for our session. And that's, how does Watson X governance work? We've talked about the concepts of the platform. We've talked about the flexibility of the hybrid cloud underpinning, the flexibility of on-prem versus software. And Damon did extremely well to help illustrate the fact that we have a tremendous amount of AI presence and perhaps less trust in what that AI is doing. And that's what speaks to the need for governance and the need to accept that whether it's 2 or 3 tools, whether it's a hodgepodge, or whether it's the wild, wild west, that a governance strategy is comprehensive. So in terms of actual working and hooks in and how it is pulling or digesting that data from other AI sources, Damon, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything pertinent there on sort of an API or hook in or any other level in terms of how it actually works. And it is my hope that the why AI governance has been well addressed, and Damon can add a little bit of color on the how.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a common question everybody wonders about, and it's what it actually does is it actually monitors not only the inputs but also the outputs. It monitors both and compares them to built-in machine learning models that are, embedded into watsonx.governance. So without going too deep, that's kind of the short answer that seems to, everybody can wrap their heads around.
I agree entirely. And the only other observation that I want to make is that the value in briefings and informed discussions is around the details and the specifics of a given customer's environment. So one of the elements of a next step is a deeper dive, not only into the technology stack, the outcome deliverables, but a deeper discussion around what exists in terms of AI first or plus AI in the environment. Where is that data? What AI is using it, et cetera. I think that the more we understand about the state of affairs and our experience of a customer's AI landscape, the more pertinent the how does it work becomes, because it does vary where we look for those inputs and outputs based on where does the AI reside. Is this on-prem? Is this in the SaaS? Whose transformer? Whose language model? These are all things that we want to consider and have specific discussions on that again, further help inform that question. How does it work? Works differently for different organizations. Well, folks, think I've come to the end of our live questions here. And as a good presenter is supposed to do, if they advertise that there might be 15 minutes left and that did not exist in someone's day, though it was going to be allocated here, we're going to give that back to you. And it is our sincere hope that this was worthwhile. Thank you to Damon, my fellow presenter. And a thank you all for attending. You're gonna continue to see events from 2020 that will revolve around other topics within the IBM AI platform, and we'll look forward to exploring that through these webinar series as well as with you all individually. Thank you again from 2020 Technology and IBM. I wish you all a great rest of your day.